Yo, what's up? It's Kev with Atmosphere FC, episode 14 with my good friend Ryan Dunn, who is a true defender, someone who saw the game in front of him, who's nails, someone that's a wall, someone that likes to do the dirty work. The perfect gentleman on the field, but the perfect gentleman off the field. I have this perfect gentleman list: Justin Luthi, Connor Fitzpatrick, Johnny Bunko, Ryan Dunn. Those are the four guys that are stand up, that I know they'll give me their shirts off their backs, if I ever needed it. So welcome, my brother. Good to see you.
It's good to be here. That's good company to keep. And I will say, not sees the game in front of him, defender. There's not a lot of technical ability, not a lot of goal scoring ability in there. So that's what you're getting with me today.
You're someone that gets high off doing the dirty work, like that, that's we're going to win every 50-50 tackle, that's going to be consistent in the air, and it's like a nuisance and a menace in the back. Like, I don't want to play against a center back or a defender like you, because you're going to just pick at me all fucking game long. That's the kind of player that I feel like and kind of gets overlooked. Like, the modern defender as spraying the ball or being able to be good with his feet. But no, for me, I want a defender to just come and just set the tone, and you're that guy, bro. You enjoy doing that.
I do. I'm a pain in the ass. I'm a nuisance. Like that is what I'm on the field for. Like, I know there's guys that have their jobs in the field. My job is to defend, to be a pain in the ass, to tackle, to win balls in the air. Like that is my job in the soccer world.
For those who are listening, me and you met at Boston College. We played at Boston College 3 years together. The experience we had was amazing. For me, I feel like it was amazing for you, but also very different how we got there, how we were able to, find each other's roles and stuff like that. So I kind of just want to get to know you a little bit, talk about your journey, and we'll get to the Boston College stuff. Grew up in New Hampshire. I think New England is a soccer powerhouse when it comes to recruiting, when it comes to talent, when it comes to college soccer. I feel like if you're not going to play at a powerhouse, at least for me, who, I grew up in the West Coast, my idea of college soccer was I'm going to go to UCLA, Santa Barbara. I never thought about going to New England, and there's so many schools out there. So I feel like coming from New England and playing soccer there, you have an advantage of being recruited, and at least having college soccer on your radar as a player right away.
Yeah. There's so many, like you said, there's so many schools, and it's in such a consolidated geographic area too. Yeah. So that was huge for me growing up. Was you could have a game in 2 states away, but it's an hour drive or 2-hour drive. Like, I actually think New England, if you think about what's great about the UK and England, is geographically things aren't that far. You can get around, and a game an hour away, 2-hour drive away is very manageable. And there's tons of teams, tons of players in a very small area, which made it, New England's made up of 6 states. There's kind of a community within the New England soccer world growing up, where if there was a good player in your age that was from Maine or from Massachusetts or Connecticut or wherever, you knew him. You had played against them, and there was sort of this little rivalry within New England as you're growing up. And then once you get to the college level and you're starting to play in high school and get recruited and things like that, there's so many schools, and the programs within New England have even been built up. You've got BC just within Boston, BC, BU, Harvard. There's some great schools right there. You look at UConn is always a powerhouse. Providence has won the Big East. You look at UVM and UNH that are in the America East. UNH is a top 10 program every year now. It's crazy. And so there's within just the New England area, there's these major sort of powerhouse college soccer programs.
Level of play is, in my opinion, the best. East Coast soccer, ACC soccer, more specifically, is the top of the top, the EPL of college soccer in mind. And it's consistent. The last few years, all the teams that have won the NCAA tournament have been from North Carolina or from the ACC. Just ask you, how'd you get into soccer, bro? I think it's so important to to understand on why people choose this sport as an American player.
Yeah. If I think about just from a young age, I was the oldest of 3 brothers. So I was kind of the first one, and my parents both played sports growing up, but weren't they never played in college or anything like that. And I think I was somebody who every sport was of interest to me. I'm in the backyard playing baseball with my dad, putting a soccer ball at my feet, shooting basketball in the front yard. And soccer was just one of those things where it was like, as the seasons went, I would change sports with the seasons. So like growing up,
Yeah.
I wasn't somebody who was like soccer, soccer, soccer all the time. It was like when it was soccer season, I loved soccer. And then when it was basketball season, I loved basketball. And then when it was, track or baseball or snowboarding or whatever, like I was just always sports crazy. And like, that was just part of it. And I think as I got a little bit older, it became clear like soccer was definitely my best sport, or my sport that I kind of was, getting coached that would say, oh, he can play, like we should put him in this team, or hey, he's pretty good, like let's get him playing an age up. And so like I think it became something that I had always loved to do, but also matched with like, okay, I got some abilities here. And like, I kind of wanted to just like keep getting better and keep growing into it that way too. But like picking up the game, I don't know. It was like, we had our town soccer, 4 or 5 years old, and I'm going out there. I still got my little like trading cards from those days. And that was it. And I kind of loved it. And I just was like sports crazy. And so it wasn't even necessarily soccer crazy, but it was like, I love playing sports. I love the team sports, and whatever season it was like what I was getting into.
That's one dope thing about the American lifestyle. Even though soccer's pay to play, like you can play multiple sports throughout the year. So for someone who's athletic like you, who, played basketball, played baseball, did track, like that builds an athlete. If you look at what's going on these days with how many players are going on to Europe, the great young talent we have on the national team, we can find these, players like you, these raw athletes, and polish them up to be soccer players. We just don't have a system that is looking for it. We kind of just want it done already. And then like, at least the MLS clubs want it by the time they're like 16, 15, they want the final product, or like the final potential, instead of like going to or setting up places to, or rec centers or rec leagues where a player like yourself, who's like, from New Hampshire, who there's like the only team that's around there is the Rebs, can have, can spark up the dream. Like, hey, like I can be on the national team. Hey, like it's, I guess like soccer doesn't have that prestige, to just as baseball or basketball do. But there's so much talent, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So much talent that, it's untapped everywhere. And I think the systems are changing in America. We're making progress. And I think about it like I'm 31 now, and I've been in the game for 25 years, let's say. And I remember like being like 10 and thinking like, wow, like I can play in the World Cup. Like the MLS is going to be a big league like the EPL. And fast forward 25 years later, I think that time is now. Like, like what I wanted, what I thought a US soccer was in 2000, I think it's happening now, where I feel like as soccer culture, we're thinking we're 25 years ahead when we're actually like getting started. Like, I feel like now soccer is finally a serious thing. We have so much pressure on the national team to win, when it's like, yo, we just got here. This is our golden era of talent. But as far as like, we haven't proven much.
I don't know how you feel about this from you growing up. And it's crazy how much it's improved now. When I was 10, 12, 14 years old, like you couldn't even watch soccer on TV. Like maybe every once in a while you could get a Revs MLS game, or like a big US national qualifier or something you'd watch on TV. But I like coming into college, I didn't have an EPL team. I didn't have a team that I really like followed. I was like a soccer player, but was not like a fan of soccer. So even now, growing through high school, college, it was not even on my radar of like, oh, I can play in the MLS, or I could play in the US national team, because I never saw it. It was never something that I even like thought of. Like, the dream of pro soccer player was there, but like you didn't see it on a day-to-day basis. Whereas now, like you could turn on your TV any Saturday in the US and watch a million games all day, which is like amazing. For me, I think is interesting how much more it's like readily available, just like soccer culture and soccer content, and being able to watch games like and follow these top players and watch them. Like that would have benefited me so much as a 14, 15-year-old, of being able to watch an MLS game, a US national team game, to be able to see like, oh, this is what the top guys do. Like that would have made a big difference for me in my my development.
We only had access to the EPL, La Liga. That's why we're Barca fans. That's why we're Arsenal fans. Obviously, me and you love the sport of soccer, but we're interested in American soccer and the culture of American soccer. And like the demand is there. Like me and you see the demand. Like, you know, we've lived in this world. Like we see the passion for it. So I guess it's frustrating. It sucks that it's not meshing all together as far as like, you know, the fans are one page, or like there's too many like politics on the national team. I don't mean this in a negative way. I mean this like in a positive way. I can't wait to just make it click so we can have the same traditions as the English Premier League, as La Liga, you know, as these big national teams, you know, like that prestige of soccer is coming. Back to what you were saying about MLS being on TV and all these games being on TV. And it's just like, there's money in American soccer. You know, Jamie Vardy buying the Rochester Rhinos. There's a lot of people investing into American soccer because it's coming. 10 to 15 years, bro, America is going to be not just, I'm not saying the MLS is going to be like a powerhouse league, but America is going to be a hub for talent, and our national team is going to be a powerhouse. And, you know, those who understand like soccer know that that's not too far fetched. Like, I'm not like delusional to think that.
It is coming. It's like only a matter of, is it going to be 10 years or is it going to be 25 years before it like really starts to take shape?
100%. Yeah. Like we're good now, you know, we're good now. Like we have a core of players that we're still going to have not just this World Cup coming up, but the next World Cup coming up, you know, but are we going to be able to produce those same players throughout and be good for the next 10 years? And I think so, bro. Look at how many American players are going abroad. It's crazy. We used to look at the Mexican players that used to get, I'm talking about like the Memo Ochoa era. Memo Ochoa used to go over there. I remember like even older, Jare Borghetti was over there. So that was like the big thing when like it was unheard for a Mexican player to play in Europe. I feel like we passed that. Like we're like, oh, there's Americans.
Dozens of them now. There's tons of them. Yeah.
There's Americans. Not only is there Americans out there, but like if you look how much Pepe is getting, it's a 20 mil buy. Like these transfers are big time buys. So like it frustrates me that people like, as far as like, if we're gonna keep it real and raw, like we're the laughing stock of the soccer world. Like as far as like our national team, as far as our league, you know, as far as like Europeans look at us as soccer is like retired, like a Mickey Mouse league. But my question to them is like, why are big clubs coming here to get American players, developed American players? I don't feel like people are giving us enough credit on what's coming and what we have now.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, because like there's definitely an old guard of classic soccer powerhouses with, you know, your Englands and your Germanys and your Frances and your, you know, Brazils. Like there's going to be a new, like even Canada, like right now, like the US, the Canada, like I'm sure at some point, like China, Japan, like just based on like the sheer money and numbers and things that are going into it, like there's going to be a new wave of like the new guard of kind of top soccer powers.
Yeah. If you look what's happening in Africa at the, I didn't catch much of the African Nations Cup, but bro, there is good teams and there's good players there. I would say that if you compare Africa, like, you know, who won? Senegal won it with Mane. We have Egypt that's a powerhouse with Mo Salah. I would say like not to give US men's national team too much credit, but like I feel like they're competing with us, like as far as like up and rising, where soccer is gonna have a shift of powerhouses, and I'm excited for that, bro. And like that's why, you know, we're here. That's why we're recording and talking this, because I feel like it's the time is now, an opportunity, and not an opportunity for like to make money, but it's an opportunity for me and you to like leave our thumbprint in the game, you know, in the culture, because we've seen we're the most credible people. Like, how'd you end up at BC?
Marco was my guy. Yeah. So I had coming out of high school, not a single scholarship offer, not one. Like I had really very few schools that even like reached out, like a couple of D3 schools. Like I kind of went and visited. Davidson down in North Carolina was a school that like had showed interest and would have like got me into the school, but not on scholarship or anything like that. At BC kind of put on a camp. I forget all the schools that are there, but it was like BC, Northeastern, Providence, whatever. So you pay to go to this, you know, 3-4 day showcase type camp. And I end up going to that camp, played super well, Marco, who was the assistant at BC at the time, had seen me play. He was like, he had been in New Hampshire, so he had seen me play at the club level too. And we got to the end of that camp, and I was like walking off the field on the fourth day. Hadn't heard anything from any of the coaches, nothing. Marco pulls me aside and was like, "Hey, would you have any interest in coming to BC?" And I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Like, yeah, of course I would. Like, there was not a sniff of anything from another ACC school. Like, it was just not even like on my radar. It was like, big school, close to home, but like big program, good academics, like had everything that was like on my list. But I had thought nothing of getting any interest from them. And so I was like, hell yeah, like what, I'll sign right now if you want me to. And so like went back, thought about it and locked it in, but it was like, it was like I don't even know what I was called, a preferred walk-on, where I, was able to put in my application to the school, but I think there's probably, they were able to help me kind of get into the school, but like not on scholarship or anything like that. And so that was how I ended up at BC. But yeah, was like through a camp. They had seen me playing at club, but it was like ultimately that camp, I think that was kind of like the final push that got me in. But yeah, didn't have a single scholarship offer, didn't really have anything kind of locked down going into, it was probably summer of my junior year going into senior year, that I still was kind of like up in the air. It's probably July or August and of high school. And that happened. And it was like pretty quick after that.
What a story. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow. The importance of camps, man. Like I myself like thought, I used to look at these camps and used to be like, these are just a money grab. Like, because the people who come to these camps are, sometimes kids who are actually getting recruited already by the school or getting looked at, and if you show up unknown, but can put those guys out, can show those guys out, you're gonna put yourself on the radar and stuff can happen. So as far as like the development of players, I think camps, like it's definitely, my perspective on camps has changed, because I used to think about it like, if I'm not getting recruited, like, one, that's a bummer already. And then it's like, maybe I should start looking at it. Like my thinking is like, maybe because my brother's 17 now. So my thing is like, okay, if my brother's not getting highly recruited, we should start thinking about maybe D2, D3, or maybe not even going to college, or just going straight to the pros and trying to, make that grind if he wants to do that. He starts asking me like, why can't I go to these camps? Like at UConn, at BU, at BC, where people. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, that's not a bad idea. And to hear your story and an amazing, not just an opportunity, a life-changing experience to go to Boston College, close to home, close to your parents, but actually play, not just walk on, bro, but you wore the captain's band. People forget. I didn't even know that. I want to congratulate you on that big accomplishment. That's amazing, bro.
Yeah, it was pretty, like, I remember so vividly the day like that camp ended, and I'm calling my parents, I'm calling my brothers, and nobody will like pick up the phone. I think my mom still has like the voicemail somewhere where I'm like, somebody pick up the fucking phone. Like, I've got some big news to share here. And like, it was just such a like amazing moment. But yeah, to the camp point, I never thought about it. Like there's definitely coaches and camps where it's like, all right, this is a money grab. You've got 250 kids that are coming in. And if you can get, I don't know, if you can get one or two players that like, sneak out of that, maybe that's a win for the schools. You make the money on top of it. But then you think about some of these guys that if you go up to the levels, if you look at the US men's national team, they do that January camp every year where that's not a top guys that are in the camp. That's like, all right, MLS guys, kind of up and comers, young guys. And you see guys that, do well in that January camp in a World Cup year and end up making the roster. So it's like, it's crazy. I think just in bigger picture, like how fast things happen in the soccer world of like one good camp, one good window, one good round of games, one good tournament. And it's like, boom, boom, boom. You're being sold. You're being signed. You're getting a scholarship. You're whatever, like playing well in front of the right people, no matter what level you're at, it can go a long way.
So you get to BC, what's going through your head? Like, now you're not only there for school, but you're there to play soccer. So what's going on? Like, I'm sure you're buzzing. Like,
yeah. So, I mean, I get to school and I still like to this day, like getting dropped off at school. My mom goes to me, she's like, just make sure that Ed knows your name. She was like convinced that Ed Kelly, like coming into BC, like didn't know my name because like Marco had recruited me. Like I was obviously not a scholarship guy. So I was like not a big deal at all. So I show up to that. I'm like, I think he knows who his players are that are at least like coming into camp. But I remember like getting to that first like freshman year camp and like crazy nervous because you come into that group and it's like, there's guys that have played, you know, you've got guys from all over the world. Yeah. Then you've got guys that are like, you got multiple guys that are like youth national team this, youth national team that, like playing, like I think Colin Murphy was playing in the under 20 World Cup. Like you've got all these guys that were like, it's big time guys. And I'm like this like little kid from New Hampshire who was like coming in. And so I think there was like a sense of just like nerves that first year when I came in of like, all right, do I fit into the pieces here? Like how, you know, can I hang with these guys? Like, am I fit? Like, am I right for this group? And so I think a lot of that first year was just like a big learning curve and going so fast. Like the game was just like a million miles an hour to me. Like I could not slow down. I was one speed, like train wreck at all times. In some ways, a good thing. And it was part of my game and like not something that I want to lose. But I think about like the transition from like my freshman year to my sophomore year and like how much the game just like slowed down for me. Yeah. And how like, and that is just something, you know, you see it with the top guys where the game slows down for them when they're 16 and like, that's when they're really peaking and getting better. But I don't think I had like logged enough soccer minutes in my life. And so it's like, you know, I'm 18, 19 years old and like, I'm now just getting soccer every day. I'm getting training every day. You know, you're playing real game minutes twice a week. Like, so it was just like I had accumulated enough soccer backup that at a certain point, like finally the game started to like slow down for me a little bit. And I was like, all right, I can still run around and tackle people and win headers and be sort of this like, you know, energizer bunny, but also I can take a breath and complete a pass and I can take a breath and make a good cross. Like at a certain point, the game sort of at least like slowed for me a little bit where I had played enough soccer where I felt so much more comfortable. And that's where things started to like click. And I really started like, you know, playing more, playing better, things like that.
Yeah. I was a year older. So I remember your class coming in, it was like probably like six guys coming in and our class was already 9 guys. Yeah. You know, so we were a super young team. So there's a lot of pressure on us already because we had a Cinderella run our freshman year in the NCAA. And the next year it was just like, okay, like we're still going to have the same team. Can we top that? And we had a great team that year. And I was like, man, if we're able to find a few of these guys that fit that can help us either off the bench or just like in that rotation, you know, those mid-game weeks, we're going to be fucking sick. And what's interesting about your story is that, bro, you're an underdog, right? So I feel like you had a lot to prove, but I feel like that's almost an advantage for an athlete and like just a soccer player because it keeps you working, keeps you mentally strong. Like, okay, like, you know, like if I keep going, I'm going to get my chance. There's going to be, I'm comparing your journey to like mine right now. And it's like where I was like, you know, highly recruited. And my mentality was like, I'm good enough to be here. I feel like I was one of the top players, but like when I didn't do well, it was the end of the world, bro. And I would not train the way I was supposed to train. I wouldn't, you know, I would kind of just like check out, you know, if I would have came a little bit more hungry and like not as highly recruited, I don't think I would have been so hard on myself as far as like get down on myself. I would have just kept working. I think it's an interesting point to bring up is that, you know, sometimes walking on, it could be the best thing for someone.
Yeah, it definitely, I mean, set a mentality for me throughout the whole course of college. It was like, I kind of always had this chip or like that, you know, somebody else more talented could come in and take my role. And I think it was my sophomore year. Like I had played on and off freshman year, but like, you know, was 10 minutes here, 5 minutes here. It was kind of like, you know, utility guy, wherever. I was the first or second game of my second year. And somebody got hurt and I end up getting put into the game. And I think I didn't miss a minute after that for 2 years. Like I played every minute of that sophomore year, every minute of my junior year. And it was one of those things where it's like, fuck that. I'm not giving this back to anybody now. Like this is mine. You're gonna have to take it from me. So like that was, I think, a really important piece for me to make me play better, to train harder, to do all that stuff.
You need those players in the locker room. You know, the coach needs that player in the locker room who's going to be dependable. I feel like if there's an identity to American players is dependability. Like you can put 24 guys on the roster and those guys are going to be fit, they're going to be strong, and they're just going to be a hard game, you know? So to see, you know, go from, you know, not getting a lot of minutes to you being a staple and like a guaranteed spot, you know, because I played in the back with you and I was just like, yes, like I'm going to play with Dunny. And I know that I'm not the fastest guy, but that motherfucker's going to come and just clean up everything. So I just got to worry about winning everything in the air and try to distribute out the back. Now when you look at it and you know, I wonder like, why do you like defending? And it's not just that the art of defending, is just like what comes with it, you know, like your whole identity as a player is like, okay, like I have a lot to prove. Like this is why defense is my thing. In the ACC, you know, we played big games where we got humbled and smacked, but like you start picking up the level and paces of like these teams, you know, your passes become sharper. You kind of start wanting to compete because it doesn't feel fucking good to get smacked by Maryland 4-0 at home. A lot of development of a player happens in that 3-month season, but it's like you said, like we don't log enough soccer minutes coming into that, during that, and like after that in the spring, you know, semester and all year round. People have to understand like this is why we're not developing the best players, you know, and it's not because we're not good. It's not because we don't have the athletes. It's not because we don't have the system that puts or our potential or anyone that's playing can actually train as a professional and log in those 10,000 hours that you need.
I'm curious for you. You and I are both like, we play our Sunday league, our beer leagues, whatever on the weekends and stuff like that. What age do you think you were at where you were like the best soccer player that you could be?
I think at 17. I thought
17,
about
okay.
17. I thought about this recently. Because obviously I got stronger, you know, I got sharp, but like as far as like my mentality and professionalism as a player, where I was just like, I want to play professional soccer. If I don't regret going to BC. I love my experience at I'm so blessed to be, bro. The fact that I have one of those BC things,
yeah.
Oh man, my mom is so proud. So I would not change that for the world. But like if I could talk to my 17-year-old self, like I am talking to my 17-year-old brother, I would be like, man, like try to go pro. Like I wish I had the guidance, know the rules with the NCAAs on how to keep eligibility. So, you know, I wish I would have had someone to like advise me, like, oh, this is how you can go about going pro. And one of my main purposes on having this podcast is like to reach those kids on like, we've as American, you know, college soccer gets put on this pedestal. Like that's the thing to do, you know, and not that that's bad, but it's like not the only option. And I like, I'm speaking of from experiences that if I could tell my 17-year-old self, I would be like, not even skip college, but let's put off college for maybe a year or two and develop from for graduating from high school, 18, 19. And if it doesn't happen, then cool. I'm still 19 and I can still come to a 4-year, you know, degree. I wish I would have taken that move. But back to your question. Yeah, I think at 17, you're just like sharp, you're elastic. Like I felt like I was faster. No one could push me off the ball. And it's also like soccer was more enjoyable back then just because like it's not that you feel more dominant, but you feel like there's no roof. So I'm gonna just keep getting better. So you know that keeps you hungry to like, I can't wait to get to the next level. And I feel like that's the beauty of the sport, you know, and like just being in the soccer world, it's just like this simple sport can just like open a lot of doors, a lot of opportunities, but it's also like part of a culture and like of a language, you know, where I feel like soccer, people may, you know, people who don't understand sports may be like, I don't understand why people take it so serious, blah, blah, blah. But like, if you break down soccer, me and you go anywhere in the world, we don't know the language, but there's going to be soccer there. And that's how we're going to communicate. That's how, even though we can't speak it, we're going to be able to enjoy and feel something, you know, feel that culture. So feel that passion. So I think, yeah, man, soccer's the shit, bro. Like the fact that we got through, you know, not just play in the American system, but like at a D1 level and like just like do it now as the league is growing. Like I'm excited for the next generation to actually get the real experience of like a good system, a good college system. You see I'm supposed to interview this current BC player, and he
Mhm.
has. I want to ask. I'm so curious to ask him about. He has like a brand deal,
Mhm.
like how sick is that?
Right.
Like that would
Like
be.
I think about when we were in school, like they weren't posted highlights from the games on Twitter. Like none of that even existed yet. And you watch these games now, it's like highlights of the videos. Each player's got their spotlights. They got it's like
Yeah.
it's a different world.
Yeah, man, and it's that's the growth that I love to see. Let's talk about the pros and cons about the college experience, the blueprint of the American player. What are some of the pros you would say?
I mean, for a guy like me to be able to come in and compete with 20 something other guys that were from all over the world that had, were all amazing players in their own rights, like that was something that I cherished. Like, I grew up in New Hampshire. Like, yeah, we had a good group and we had some talented guys in that group, but not even close to the level of like what, a full roster of guys at BC was. So just that opportunity to come in and like train every single day with these very talented guys, like that just inherently made me a better player. So like that huge pro, like of just how much like that environment helps. And, you're never in an environment where you're training every day either, like that.
Yeah.
Just touching the ball every day, being out in training every day. I had never had a strength training coach before, or like a trainer before.
Yeah.
So like having somebody who was like, you should stretch this, or this is your lifting program, or like
Yeah.
I put on 15 pounds of muscle and was stronger and faster, and like that, obviously was a big positive for me, like within the college experience. Like there was just so many more like resources of things that
Yeah.
were like kind of adjacent to the game that you don't necessarily think about when you're 17. And it's like you're probably taping your own ankle and maybe lifting, maybe not, maybe going out for a run, but like you don't have like a proper like training program. So all of those things I think were huge positives to the game for me in college.
The resources, the education you get on like taking care of your body.
Yeah.
Like, bro, I would eat like shit. I mean, I would lift, but like it was stupid lifting, the stuff
Yeah.
that, wasn't helping me at all.
Like I don't think I had touched a weight in my life till I walked on campus at BC. Like honestly, I don't know. Maybe I did a little bit, but like it was just not something that nobody had told me to do, or I had never thought about before. And so that was like, all right, I got to do this now.
In retrospect, now that I think about it, it doesn't matter if you're in D1, D2, D3. If you're like in an environment like this, only downside I can think of, because you're given we were given all the tools, bro, all the resources. Classes sucked, yeah, but like we were given study hall, and if you actually like grinded, you were able to, not just get by, but like actually like not cruise, but like, because our workload is ridiculous, but actually manage. If we're gonna be completely honest, the only downside to college soccer is that it's not a year round. It's too short. You saw that we only played 3 months, and in those 3 months, bro, realistically, I didn't deal with that many injuries. So, but I would still miss maybe like 10-15% of the season, because it's such a toll on your body, So for development, that's terrible. That's against everything I'm sure the Europeans believe in. And it's like, if we're able to like fix just like, I'm not even, because I know it'll take a shit ton of money to run. It's expensive to run a year-round program, whatever, but like extend it to like maybe 6 months, or like actually have a spring season, where you can keep training. The fact that there's limited hours. Oh, that's probably the other thing that's fucking whack, bro. That there's limited hours. That's like mind blowing. Like the coach can only work with the team for a certain amount of hours in the spring season. That is, bro, that is so disrespectful to the game, so disrespectful, so unfair to the athletes, and I wonder what's the thinking behind all that. And it's not that we're not getting the best, because we're getting players out there, but it's just, I feel like we're wasting potential just because we don't have a fluid fucking system.
Yeah. If I think about like how I developed, and you get this great window from August in preseason training through, if you're lucky, Thanksgiving. Like that's maybe 4 months if you're having a good season. Then it's like December is kind of cruise. You're then like January through May, where maybe you play 4 games, 5 games, maybe. And then, you're lifting, you're training a couple times a week. But like for me, like I would then go and play. I played like PDL, which is now, I don't even know what they call it, but like USL 2 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I'd play that in the summer, and you'd get 25 games. And like, I would get so much better from the course of like June 1st to August 1st than I did from January to May. And it's like, all right, if you think about let's just add in now 20 games or 15 games or 10 games in that window, and you're training every day still, like accumulatively over 4 years, like how much better I would have gotten each year. Then, okay, January to May, you're maybe getting incrementally a little bit better, but not much. And then you ramp it up and you're, improving or whatever. But that's a huge, huge difference. You're losing, 16 months over the course of 4 years.
You broke it down perfectly. Damn, 16 months in 4 years. That's crazy of actual development, and have a good season. Cause I was one of those guys also who was a utility player. I'll fit anywhere, but then I used to be like, what now? Like, so now, I think of like my trajectory as a player, like, oh, that's where I went wrong. That's where my development, stopped. And yeah, though, these are the points that, have to be brought up, because people have to understand like the trajectory of the college season, and not just the college season, but like the college player year. Blatant to see is that we're not getting enough minutes, enough playing time. So that's what's fucking up our development. That's the hard truth, honestly. But if we sweep that under the rug, like, bro, these facilities are sick. The level of play is sick. Like, being able to, like, bro, we were treated like as far as like buses, hotels, like, and then you pair that with the level of play, and we were up and coming, so we got to see like the prestige that Maryland had and like their facility and Wake Forest, and we were like, fuck, like this is like how
it feels professional. Yeah, it feels like you're like in a professional environment. There's 5,000 people cheering and screaming, and you're getting your name announced. Like it feels like a professional environment.
Bro, think about it like that. Like, obviously, you're a basketball guy. You love the NCAA. You see how big March Madness is, bro.
Right.
Think about how for soccer, like we have to tweak our seasons a little bit just to get it to that height. And it's just like, we're this close of doing it, but like, I don't know what's stopping us. Like, what up with the NCAA, or just like, and that's frustrating for us, because that's not just like for a fan, it's like a bummer, because obviously we don't get to see that, enjoy the March Madness for soccer, but like also is like, it's a bummer because that's slowing our process to becoming this powerhouse, and like, and it also, I don't know, makes me insecure that like I said earlier in the podcast, like they laugh at us, bro. For example, this is what I mean. Chris Armas, American guy at Man United. You think they're happy? You think Man United diehard fans are happy that an American is there, bro?
I heard they're calling him Ted Lasso.
Hilarious. That is that's hilarious. But like, that's the shit I'm talking about. Where perfect example is that we're the laughing stock of the soccer world, and that's why we're here working to change that perspective. So, bro, like, not that we're demanding our respect, but like, bro, we're coming, and like, I'm saying this with my chest out, like 10 years, like, okay, like we got it, and if you look at the women's side, and I feel like once we figure out the college and the MLS, bro, it's gonna be America's gonna be the spot to be. World Cup year, your prediction, first of all, how do you think we're doing from your perspective, and your predictions on how we're gonna do throughout the, before we get to the World Cup?
So I don't want to jinx us, because there's still some work to be done before we qualify. So I'm hoping we take care of this last window. We qualify. We take care of business. Like there's no easy games in this last window. I'm like, we gotta make sure we qualify. Like that's priority 1, 2, and 3. But we have showed up at the World Cup before with a team of significantly less quality and gone further. We've got groups. I think it was the 0-2 group. Goes to the quarterfinals. We've had groups that do well and are kind of like bigger than the sum of the parts in that sense. And I think this current group that we have right now, there's still some questions, about them as kind of a total package. You look at last summer and them beating Mexico 3 times, winning the Gold Cup, winning the US Nations League, and some of those games were vicious, just slugfest games, like classic games that the US would win. The team had personality. The team, they're beating their chest in front of the Mexican fans. Like there was something very American soccer about them going and winning those games. But then you look at them throughout qualifying, and that kind of comes and goes in waves, like where there's nights where they look like world beaters and they're, passing the ball, they're scoring goals. And it's very much like, okay, we've got a really good group here. And then there's other games where you see them sort of lose that bite or that edge or that little bit of like dig inness that I think is like comes with the territory of American soccer. Like you know me as a defensive guy, as a guy that's like gonna go out, smash people, tackle, like be organized. You don't always see that like fight within the US group at all times. And so I think getting to a point where that's more consistent, like if this US group, like on certain nights walked into the African Cup, they'd go 0-3 and be bounced and get killed. Because like you watch some of these games, guys are tackling, it is war. And like I see within our team, there's some guys, McKinney on certain nights, Pulisic on certain nights, Gio Reyna on certain nights. There's guys that have that sometimes. There's other nights where they go and they disappear. There's not like kind of that collective team effort, a Dest, that's, Anthony Robinson, these guys that are maybe more technical and more, looking to get forward and not get stuck in and defend. And so I think finding that balance of, we know we have talented, skillful guys, but also being able to like balance it with that sort of gritty toughness of American soccer that's kind of always been there. That's what I think we need to find to ultimately have like a really successful World Cup.
Facts. The group we have is amazing. We hear people say that, they haven't proved anything. Herculez Gomez says it all the time. I love Herculez Gomez, but we have proven a lot. We beat Mexico 3 times last year. We won the Nations Cup. We won the Gold Cup. We have proven that this group is going to step up to the occasion, that can win games when it matters. But then I see him get punked by Canada, or we go to Honduras or El Salvador and we can't get a result. It just comes from the team not being mature. We're very young, yes. When I mean mature, I feel like we still, as a group, we don't have the character or that presence and confidence in our game that we're gonna walk out and like beat people. I think we're still thinking like, let's just get a result. That's been US soccer this whole 25 years. Let's get a result kind of team. And I think that we need to start, and it's all comes down to the locker room. It comes down to Greg Berhalter gelling everybody. I think he has a bunch of favorites, but guys that are going to be at the level to compete, but also be mature enough to be like, hey, we play better teams. We can play at a high level where we're not doubting ourselves. Like, can we be Canada? Can we be France? It's like, no, we got to go out there and be like, hey, France, bring it on. 11 versus 11. We're just as good. I think we're this close of being there. This group is young enough. And when you're young like this, I think it's less egos and it'll be more of a collab, vibe in the locker room. There's not going to be one superstar. We don't have to depend on Christian Pulisic. I think after this window, he's understood like, hey, like, I don't have to be a hero every single fucking game. There's other guys that can step up. McKinney, Musa, Tyler Adams can step up. Pepe can step up. I think he needs to find the role of the superstar role player. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, you're just not going to be the hero, but like, that's our guy. We're definitely going to qualify, and anything can happen at those stages. Like every team, no matter who you are, no matter if you're France or Brazil, that's the same nerves. Everyone puts their pants on one leg at a time once you get there. So I'm excited to get to that stage, because it's 8 years. We haven't got to like enjoy this in 8 fucking years. Making this World Cup is not just big because we haven't made it in a long time, but it's just like a statement, like, we're here, bro. Like, we're gonna be not dominant, but we're finally here. Because if you look at the last 8 years, our league has grown. Our players are in Europe, so it wasn't just all downhill. Like, hey, we're back. It's time to fucking work, So I think if we have that mentality, instead of just like happy to be there, I think we're gonna get to the second round, bro. And once you get to the round of 16, bro, it's a lot of it is luck. A lot of it is just like whoever has a better day that day, And I feel like America can get lucky, bro, and get to the quarters. And if we get lucky, maybe a semis, bro. Like,
I do think we're best as a footballing country, as like the team that's, backs up against the wall, like a little bit of underdog chip on the shoulder. It doesn't have to always be like, that's when I could see this group rising to the occasion of playing a France or a Belgium or a Germany versus like you draw, maybe a lesser team. Like I'd almost want us to be in like, maybe this is crazy, but like put into a group of death. Cause it's like, all right, if you can come swinging out of that, you can beat anybody at that point.
And group of death, bro, we've been, if you look at the history, like our groups have never been easy. We've always had Germany, Portugal. We've had tough, like I'm hoping, the soccer gods are on our side and don't give us a group of death.
Yeah.
And that way we can kind of like, still earn our spot, but like, cause also like that group of death shit, bro, and then have it cut even. I feel like that's, if we don't get out of that group of death, fuck, like morale, we can't flex the last 8 years as hard as, we can.
Yeah.
Like we would want to.
And to have like this World Cup is so like we have to qualify. If we don't qualify, we've got major issues, but we have to qualify and then have a good showing because the next World Cup is in the US and that is going to be like it's the US, Canada, Mexico, whatever it is. But like, that's going to be, you got this group that's now at like peak age, core groups have been together for a while. Like that could be sort of the like coming out party for
exactly,
US soccer.
Bro. Like I said, like us making this World Cup, yeah, we're here because yes, in 4 years it's coming back to America, came to North America where we're gonna still be in our golden age. And that's what I mean. But like, bro, we're here like that. It's so important that for the growth of soccer to be at this World Cup, but also this 10-year window, this delusional window I have, bro. It's like, no, it's set up perfectly. We do well in this World Cup. Soccer keeps growing. The demand keeps growing. The loyalty keeps growing. It comes back to America, bro. Think about how packed. Think about how big these fucking stadiums are, bro. Like 100,000. No, if we're able to be a powerhouse at home in front of 100,000 people that are USA, I don't think a World Cup is too far-fetched. I'm telling you, man.
Yeah, so, on home soil, like it's anything is possible there.
Do you think American fans are too toxic? Like as far as like, I know a lot of this criticism comes from a place of passion, but it's also coming from a place of like ignorance and not understanding and not putting ourselves, because I do it a lot of the times in the player's shoes, and I feel like America's so big and Twitter and all this, we have access to so much negativity when it comes to our national team that also stunts our like growth as a soccer nation, as a soccer culture, because obviously Brazil has their haters. English people love their national team, but also fucking hate their national team. But also they have built a tradition to do that. We haven't built a tradition where we can disrespect our national team. I feel like we have improvement. Yes, the national team has improved themselves as a team, but we haven't proven ourselves as fans, as loyal fans, that we're going to be through and through the bad times and the good times. If we're just able to understand, and that's why I feel like it's so important for us to have a coach, a people's coach, bro. I feel like that's the only person that's going to unite or kill the toxicity and just be like, hey, just give us time, trust us. And I feel like that's the only way we're going to be able to just slowly come together.
So the toxic piece of the US fans, I'm not too worried about that, just because kind of what you said of like, you go anywhere in the world, fans turn pretty quickly if things aren't going well.
Yeah.
And whether that's, England, France, Brazil, Argentina, wherever, like fans are going to rip into you if you're not playing well, if things aren't going well. So I almost look at that as like, all right, if US fans are talking and asking questions and, looking into it, I see that as like a positive thing, like that there's almost like, get people talking, get more. If people are talking about it, that's a good sign. It means people care. That means people are invested. I do think the US specifically is kind of still far behind as far as like building a fandom. Like, yes, there is a US national team fandom. You go to these different, cities, states where they're playing, and there's, the American Outlaws are there. There's US soccer bars, what have you. But a friendly in the middle of July isn't selling out. Like, it doesn't matter. You go, you obviously when they play, kind of more down south, if they're playing a Latin American team, it's more,
Yeah.
Mexico, it's more El Salvador, it's more whatever. I actually think we're building more of a club culture in the US, which is good because I think that'll ultimately foster like a national team culture. There are diehards of Atlanta United and of the Revs and of LA Galaxy. Like that only hopefully helps then fuel like a broader fandom for the national team. But it's not there yet. Like there's not for 300 plus million people that live in the United States, there's still a pretty small percentage of them that are like, diehard US men's national team fans. And I think that's where having these big moments where, you're on the world, we haven't played on a global stage. The casual fan doesn't care about the Gold Cup or doesn't care about the Nations League. Like the diehards, you and I are watching those games, and there's a group of people that are watching those games, but it's not bringing in the kind of casual observer. You need World Cup success. You need to play on the biggest stage to get fans in for life, to get people hooked on being a US soccer fan. And hopefully that then translates down to people caring about the Gold Cup, to people caring about the Nations League, to people caring about when an MLS guy gets, sold to whoever. Like, but I don't think we're quite there yet as far as like building to mass appeal the US national team.
On one side, yes, we're exposed to a lot of negativity on social media. When you actually break down soccer is growing. If you look at people like me and you have your own podcast. I have my own podcast. Now I'm seeing a gap being bridged with the normal content creator, with the Alexi Lawlesses and Taylor Twellmans and them interacting. And that's so important for the culture. That's so important for growth for the fandom, because you now have access to more credible opinions, where we come from an era where we hear Alexi Lalas and he grew up. I have respect for Alexi Lalas. He played soccer, he's an American legend, but he also played a long time ago, and his takes are different. And then we have Herculez Gomez, who I agree a little bit more. And then I go on YouTube and I follow some of these like amateur podcasts, and I'm like, there's a lot of good shit being said on these podcasts. And now Herculez Gomez, all these like personalities, credible personalities are like coming and doing these podcasts because they want to reach that audience. And that's fandom. Like they want to go into these podcasts and these platforms because they know that they're going to reach the actual true fans of the national team and soccer. So I think it's very interesting. And I think it's very crucial that this keeps happening. And I love to see it, because I love to see the perspective of someone who is a current pro or someone that's played on the national team versus a normal everyday Joe that just watches soccer. I think it's really interesting. And I think it's also I think it's going to be the thing that lifts American soccer. Like I said earlier about the coach, I think this is going to glue our fans together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The more exposure, the more it's out there, the more people are talking about it, I think the better. And it's not just the three guys that get the seat in the chair on Fox. It's, the people that are huge fans that play the game, that love the game, that are fans of Christian Pulisic, that are fans of Tyler Adams, and like have watched them grow up and now get to sort of continue to talk about it too, like helps just push it forward.
Yeah, there's so many important voices out there, man. And it's like I've learned this myself. Like I used to think like ignorant. I used to think ignorant, like, a professional player is gonna know more than me, more of the game than me. This is me post playing. Like this is me as thinking as a coach. If someone played at a higher level, they have more knowledge to offer more knowledge of the game to offer. But in reality, bro, like they may have more knowledge in the professional level, but as far as like behind the scenes, there's so many people that are out on these fields. There's so many scouts. There's so many people, college coaches, college recruits that know this system through and through, that, know where the flaws are, but like there's not enough information being compiled to be like, this is where we're fucking up and this is what we need to change. Where I see it in the next 5 years, we keep talking about this 10 gap window, where I think in the next 5 years, our system is going to get better, because we're going to start finding answers from everyday people that know the game. When I mean people that know the game, I don't mean soccer. I mean the American system, bro. Like I think my biggest flex is not going to Boston College. It's not playing on the national team. My biggest flex is that I grew up in the American system. No one can tell me nothing about it, because I played through it, I've coached through it, and it's just like I've seen where it's lacking. And I may not have all the answers, but like I've put my time in, so I know what the fuck I'm talking about. And it's like this close, bro. We're this close to just like figuring it out. And like I think conversations like the ones we're having are important to have because they're credible voices. You're someone that grew up, your soccer experience was completely different, but you grew up in the system. You can say that you did that, like, so no one can take away like, oh, you don't know soccer, you don't know blah, blah. Like, no, the people that are going to change the system is going to be the people that know it. Not no Europeans. We can't keep scapegoating and trying to get it from anywhere else when, we have everything that we need here.
So it's funny you say that. I hear this in my other show all the time. And this is more with like creative people, entrepreneurs, people like that are like, you always start in anything imitating what you see out there, what you like. So I see it with US soccer too. It's like, all right, let's copy what Germany does. Let's copy what England does. Let's copy all these things. And that's great. That's how you get started. You like, there's no other better way to do it than like, all right, I'm going to borrow this. I'm going to borrow this. And then as over time, you start imitating people, you start to put your own style on it. You start to put the special kind of like elements of you into it. And I think that's where we're kind of at that inflection point with US soccer right now, where we've borrowed some things from Europe. We've borrowed some things from South America. We've borrowed some things from these different places, putting in a US developmental academy system, having the option for kids to sign, straight out of the academy to play in the first team. Like we've built some of these systems have started to come in, but now it's like adding the little bit. The US system is going to be totally different than the English system. It's going to be totally different than the German system. So we've copied the pieces that are good, but it's like, now you got to kind of sprinkle in like, all right, for me as a New Hampshire kid, what ways could my system have been better? We got to sprinkle some of those things in. For you growing up out of LA, like what are ways that it could have been better for you to kind of, continue to grow? How can we make the college system better? And it's now like, sprinkling those elements in and making our own little American potion. Because I think that's where we're at that point right now. We're starting to add some of those like little pieces of us.
Yeah, bro. And the proof is in our face. NBA, NFL, bro, they're all American. The NBA doesn't go to China or like Europe to like, get their training or get their players. It's just like, no, like the best basketball is here in America. We're going to do shit like we've been doing it and I feel like that's where we need to go with soccer. The whole soccer world is forever, bounce off each other. Yeah. But it's time to actually stamp and just kind of just like build our own identity. Our identity is there as far as like, we're a blue collar team. We're going to battle, but it's just like owning up to that and then owning that. And then just, I feel like once we own that, we're going to polish it up and play beautiful soccer, bro. Cause there's ballers out there. We're not in the era where our only saucy player is Clint Dempsey. Like we had everyone that on that roster, bro, like can do something. I'm excited, and I'm excited to keep growing this podcast and just keep getting perspectives like this and having conversations with like people who are important to the sport. We're important people to this sport, bro, because I'm telling you, this is what we've invested and we put our time in. So it feels good to, bounce ideas and just discuss stuff that with someone that is just as passionate as me, about them. So thank you for your time, bro. This is amazing. And I know this is not going to be the only time we do this, man. I'm going to look forward to us before the World Cup predictions and stuff like that. So again, thanks for your time, my brother. Of
course, this was awesome. I could talk about this for days. So, you know me, anytime I'll be back.
Man, ladies and gentlemen, Ryan Dunn from Destination Different, a podcast. You're documenting people's stories who are not doing the regular 9 to 5, so what you're doing is important too, bro. And keep, like I said, I love the consistency. I love the content. I look forward to every week, hearing it. So I want to just, congratulate you on your hustle and on your grind, bro. And I wish you nothing but the best with that.
Thank you, brother. Well, I appreciate it. And I know that this show is going to just keep rolling too. I'm excited for what you got going with this. So
thank you, bro.
Keep it going.
Cheers, bro. Shout out BC. Shout out Boston College, Ed Kelly, man. Shout out everyone that was in that locker room with us and, that got the pleasure to play at BC with me and you, man.